Everyone, welcome to the Ball and Chain. Apologies we didn't get a video out on Friday. Well, we did, but there was no sound. I had some technical issues with my laptop. We published the video, realised it was a mess, and just gave up, really. Got upset, got the face on, and no video happened. However, we're back today, and we'll play catch up with the football, and we'll play catch up with the market. So, two separate videos coming your way, one for football and one for crypto. This is the intro for both, so we'll drop the links to the other one, vice versa, so you can make sure you can catch up if you want to watch them both, or feel free to choose which one you prefer, depending if you're into football or into crypto. But if you're into both like me, then you've got it all to look forward to today. So without further ado, grab a drink, sit back, strap in, you know how we do it, and let's crack on with the videos. Enjoy the shows today, everybody. Hey everyone, welcome back to the madness that is the crypto and basically any financial markets at the moment. We have the boomeranging episode around Bitcoin's price at the moment. Is it, isn't it? We have the weekends that are just causing chaos with the CME gaps that have just been the most unhelpful in the world. We seem to get a weekend pump and then the inevitable dump happens on Monday. So we had a good weekend. We closed out around between 114 and 115k, but we were left with a 110k CME gap. Will we fill it? Won't we? We've been sideways moving really all week for the last couple of days. Last week we've had obviously good progress in the last week. Bitcoin's up approximately 6%, which is really good. Ethereum's now over 4k. Sol's over $200. XRP's is on the rise. That's gone above $2.50. We're seeing real strength in the market and recovery in the market. However, we have probably the most volatile week that we're going to experience, certainly in October. So, what we got going on this week? Well, every day from now, the reason why I've recorded this video today is because over the next 3 days, we've got some key data points and some key macro events happening. So I will still say, let's not leave the elephant in the room out of the way. The US is still shut down. This will come to bear at some point. I think the markets are just working around it at the moment, but the US still is in shutdown. Now, the headlines have gone away because I think it's been going on for so long, and it's pretty unprecedented, really. And it looks like there's no end in sight, really, which is really worrying. You know, this talks about people who haven't been paid for a full month now having to have food banks and emergency measures put in place. So it really is a dire state of affairs. I hope for those that are impacted it's sorted out as soon as possible, but unfortunately there's no end in sight. So that is one aspect of the macro that's been ongoing for a number of weeks. I think the markets are kind of over it or pricing it in and understand that. The second aspect, and probably the biggest one, although again I think it's already priced in, so people expecting a massive pump in the next 24 to 48 hours unless we get something unprecedented. We may end up getting a sell the news. We may fill that CME gap and then we might bounce back up. So tomorrow is the FOMC meeting where they will announce whether we're going to get rate cuts, etc., and whether QE is going to start or whether we're going to stay in QT mode. When I say QE, I mean qualitative easing or quantitative tightening. So QE is where they start to relax some of the constraints to try and tame inflation because it's quite high at the moment, and the figures showed that it's around, it was a little bit lower than expected but still higher than it was last month. So at 3% we got that in at the market has priced, I think it's a 97% chance of a 25 point basis cut. So if we get that, the markets will be okay. If we don't get a rate cut, expect the markets to absolutely dump. And if we get a 0.5 basis point cut, expect the markets to go absolutely crazy and to see the biggest pump you've seen in a long time. I expect Powell seems to be pretty consistent in his approach, so the markets typically tend to get Powell predicted right. I think it'll be a 0.25 basis point, and we could see a sell the news event. Now, that is what's happening Wednesday. On Thursday, Trump is meeting Xi Jinping, the Chinese leader. and they are going to finalise their summit. Now, there was, if you remember a couple of weeks ago, take your mind back 2 weeks ago, the market dumped because Trump reacted to what he saw as a bit of a trade-off and trade war between China, and enforced and said from the 1st of November, which is Saturday, he would enforce a 150% tariff on China. He's since pulled back in his last couple of tweets and his statements to warn off that. So my hope is their meeting Thursday will be a really positive one with good news coming out. So you're starting to see the macro culminating in positive news. So if we get a 25 or 50 basis point cut, if we get a good outcome from Thursday, and we get good data points that are coming out on Friday. I can't remember. I don't know if it's CPI numbers, but this the Fed's preferred inflation measure comes out on Friday as well. So again, that will dictate maybe November's meeting as well. So we could, those three macro events could have a real impact on the market. So expect a huge amount of volatility over the course of this week. What do we want to see? Well, we'd love to see BTC go and break all-time high before we close. That confirms our bullish thing, but actually it's up our bullish narrative and continues the bull market. If we drop below 100k, I think it's over. So these next few days are really critical because we're all looking for alt season. I know everyone's looking for that. We want to see BTC needs to continue to go up. We need to see BTC hit all-time highs. A lot of people, so the natural progress and the way these markets normally play out and the way the historic cycles have worked, and I'll leave it to you to debate whether we're still in those cycles or not when one considers institutional investment, etc. But the news is that, and the history would say, and it doesn't repeat but it totally does rhyme, is that mid-November is the time for Bitcoin really to top out, and then we should start to see alts come towards the end of November into December. A lot of people are saying that could ride into January as a result of the US shutdown, and that might have put a delay on things, but time will tell. Again, patience is key with all this, isn't it? We'll see what happens this week, and if we get a dip, that you can decide whether that's a dip buying opportunity. I'm not here to offer financial advice, but I'm just here to walk you through what's happening around the markets and the macro going into this, what is a very, very exciting week, which is why I wanted to do the video today. I didn't do one last week because it was largely sideways and not really much to report. It's the same old. But this week, as we've seen, quite a lot happening, quite a lot going to happen, and it's important that we've got eyes on that and we're responding to that. So you see over the last 24 hours, trading volume is down. The market cap has gone up considerably. If you look at the waves that we're riding at the moment, on that market cap, you'll see that we're peaking out, but we've dipped a little bit. But again, this is just where we are today, and we'll just refresh it and see what that's looking like at the moment. You see trading volume has just peaked up there though in the last few hours, so we are starting to see positive momentum happening there. Top gainers and losers at the moment, trending is Chain Opera AI, down 30%. It was absolutely rocketing up. That's gone down. Pudgy Penguins has gone down. And Zcash, which was on a real rampage, is pulling back 11%, which is not a surprise. It really was flying up there. And they have started to pull back a little bit as that momentum and trading volume catches them a little bit. We can see the top gainers, Puffer, Phoenix and Skido. Yeah, the usual. Going back to the madness. Right, let's scroll down and have a look at what's happening across the markets. I'm just going to pull it along a little bit so we can start to see. I might see if I can mess it up. Can we pull these along a little bit? So we can see that Bitcoin has had a very good 7 days. It's in the green. It's pumping quite nicely, which is all good and what we want to see. ETH's been on a good trajectory as well, so some really good momentum. Bitcoin's gone back up to 115. It was down at 114 a minute ago, that refresh. So we're getting the afternoon pump is coming in UK time. So we're seeing some good momentum here. Look at these moving up now. So pretty good over the last 7 days. It was 6%. It's now gone up 3.6%. So we're seeing really positive movement in the right direction. I think the major area of resistance is between 160 and 118k for Bitcoin, and we're seeing it struggle to keep above 115 at the moment. This is a critical point, and as I say, over the next couple of days it's going to be really interesting to see how that plays out. XRP doing pretty well, up 5%, BNB up 4%. It's been on a rampaging run, hasn't it? BSC BNB. Salt is fighting that $200 market, is really having a battle there, and it's been up and down all the time. Again, we've got quite a few CME gaps opened up for Ethereum and Solana though, so it'll be interesting to see they close out before our next move up. Doge is sideways, absolute perfect contender size. So is Cardano. Hyperliquid's up 26%. It's recovered. So if you've got some money in that, you've done very well. Well done. Chainlink down 0.5%. It's been over the week. Yeah, it's recovered quite well because it was at $17 last week, around latter part $17.80, something like that last week. So Chainlink's recovered pretty well, but still more work to do there to get anywhere near where it should be. Or where it was previously. I think it was like $23, $24 before the dip, so it's got some work to do to catch back up there. Sui again dropped down. I think it's about it was teetering around $3 and just over there over the course of the last few months, so that really needs to pick up momentum. But again, it's in the broader market spectrum there. Monero doing very well. It's in line with the privacy coins like Zcash that's been a winner over the course of this week. We then got Crow doing pretty well and continuing to make good progress, and Polkadot struggling again as always. World Liberty Finance is up 6%, Meme Core is up 5%, so we're seeing some progress happen there, and Ethereum is up 6.9% as well. Aptos 5%, Ondo down and struggling, but it's up. You know, most of these are green. We're seeing really positives happening right across the markets, which is really great to see. There's a few outliers that are struggling, but the predominant markets we're seeing are green. There's some losers, but most are green. Trump had a bit of a weird pump, had a massive rise yesterday. It's up 17%, so I think that's just because it's literally been across everybody's feeds and in the news all the time. And I guess his meeting on Thursday is probably why people are pumping that coin. So that would have been a good one to trade. But again, it's very risky at this moment in time because it's so heavily attached to macro. So that's up and down, just a quick trend view of the markets. Let's have a look at crypto bubble and how that's looking. I'm just going to pull this back round so we can see what that looks like. So in the last hour, let's just give it a quick content reload. So again, it's looking largely green. We've had a good last hour. If you look across the day, it's not been great. We've had quite a lot of pullbacks on quite a few coins. Again, I'm expecting that. It's very typical for us to see volatility at this time, and then the same over the month. No surprise. There's a couple of outliers, but that's COAI is down. Chainlink Opera is down 26%, 30% today, but it's still up nearly 2,000%, which is insane, isn't it? So no surprise there. We're looking over the year. Things are looking good. Look at XRP up 400%. But anyway, these are the gains that we've seen over the last year. And it's in line. We've had a good hour, but the day's down. So let's see where we end up. 31% on Copes. But if you look at that over the month, it's kind of interesting, the comparison there, isn't it? We've had, and it's had a bad week. Virtual's up 78%. So it's interesting to look at some of these movements, isn't it? Right across the markets. Fear and Greed Index, well, we've moved from being in quite heavy fear now to a neutral sentiment, and I think that's expected with all the macro stuff happening over the course of this week. So no surprise there that we're neutral. We're not fearful. We're not greedy. Tomorrow may tip the scales in either side depending on the outcome of that FOMC meeting, and then Jerome Powell's going to give his speech after, and that will give us some insights and inclinations into what to expect for the rest of the year and into 2026. Is it alt season? Well, we've seen a bit of a pullback. We're in the 30s, late 30s over the past few days, but it has risen up to 43, which means alts are gathering a little pace against Bitcoin. Not much, but this is standard for this time. This is what we expect. Moving into November, we should start to see that shift back into alt season if everything comes about as we expect it to come about. So we'll do probably another video on Friday and summarize where we've got to. The next couple of days are absolutely critical, so keep an eye on what's going on. As I say, FOMC tomorrow, Jerome Powell speaking. After that, we'll get some good inclinations into what the Fed's thinking, where we're going for the end of the year and into next year. The markets will respond based on the tone of Powell. And then on Thursday is Trump's meeting in China. to talk about trade deals. So we'll see what happens there. Hopefully there's no madness and the two of them get on like a house on fire and we end up with some really positive tones coming from that. And then Friday's another key data point. CPI figures are coming out, so we'll see what's happening there. So again, expect volatility over this week. We'll be back on Friday to summarise where we're at, and let's hope we've got some more pumps and the markets are rising. Okay, have a great rest of your week, everybody. See you soon.